What is going on? It is Nate the Game Guy coming back with another video at hand, and today I want to take a look at some games that were released on launch that happen to be some of the best games that you could probably have for a launch release. With this list, I'm going to be taking a look at all kinds of different systems over the years with the games that have come out for these systems, and all these games I have personally played myself, so these are games that I do have experience with and also own in the game collection as well. And I am not going to be ranking this list in any way, shape, or form. This is not a worst to best, best to worst, top 5, top 10, whatever. These are just games that I've selected myself that I consider to be some of the best when trying to start off a console strong. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video, take a look at some of these games right after the intro. So starting off the list very strong is Super Mario 64. Now this game easily has to be one of the best launch titles of all time. Back when the Nintendo 64 came out in 1996, it obviously launched with Super Mario 64, and it allowed Mario to jump into the 3D realm for the first time. This game introduced a lot of brand new aspects and a fresh new take for Super Mario, and had a host of very fun, innovative, and creative levels. It had a lot of nice aspects added to it, and it was overall a solid game. This game helped propel Super Mario into the direction that it is known for today, with future titles such as Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario Galaxy, Super Mario Odyssey, and so on. It is an incredible game that I think about playing from time to time, cleaning off the 64, hooking it back up off of the shelf, and enjoy some good old Super Mario 64. Now with the second entry on the list, it is following the same theme of a classic platforming franchise with the jump into 3D with Sonic Adventure. Now this game was a launch title for the Sega Dreamcast back when it launched on September 9th, 1999, and while the Dreamcast had a lot of great launch titles such as Power Stone, Hydro Thunder, among others, it was without a doubt that Sonic Adventure was easily the standout title for the console's launch. It propelled Sonic the Hedgehog into the leap of 3D. Now, a lot of people will say that Sonic hasn't fared as well as Mario when it comes to the jump into 3D, but what I can say that was the original Sonic Adventure, it was a very overall solid game. Unfortunately, with this title, you can see the game has aged not quite the best as the years have gone by, but thankfully with this game, it was overall a very memorable game and offered a very fun and unique experience, and thankfully this game would allow a sequel to be made within 2 years, which would easily spawn one of the best Sonic the Hedgehog games of all time, which was Sonic Adventure 2. Now, of course, with Nintendo's iconic platforming plumber, it wouldn't just be Super Mario 64 that would help introduce an amazing launch title from Nintendo, but of course, taking a look one generation prior with the Super Nintendo, it is easily said without a doubt that Super Mario World is another phenomenal launch title from Nintendo. Super Mario World helped introduce Yoshi, and I would argue helped perfect some of the platforming elements that were introduced in the original Super Mario Bros. Games that were on the NES. With Super Mario World, it is without a doubt a very iconic Super Nintendo game, and in my opinion, it is a must-own for anybody that happens to own and plans to purchase a Super Nintendo. Now, it is without a doubt that Nintendo is an absolute behemoth and a powerhouse when it comes to cranking out high-quality video games in general, but of course that also includes launch titles as well. Back in 2006, when the Nintendo Wii launched, it was originally bundled with Wii Sports, and this game was awesome. It introduced motion control to sports such as bowling, baseball, tennis, boxing, and of course golf. This This game was easily a party favorite when it came to having guests over, sleepovers, and having family members easily be able to pick up the Wii Remote and Nunchuck and have a blast. It is easily a game that has some really strong high replay value to it, making it a game almost 18 years later. You can easily pick it up, turn on the Wii Remote, plug in the Nunchuck, and have yourself a good time with the sports that just feel solid, they feel right, they feel natural and fluid. Before Nintendo would introduce Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, Sega would release a game very similar to Star Fox as a launch title for the Sega Genesis, which was Super Thunder Blade. Super Thunder Blade was a game where you would be in a helicopter and you would be gunning down your enemies throughout the stages, and it was just a very fun game with some solid replayability, and it was a fun game to play. Now, unfortunately with Super Thunder Blade, I do feel that this game isn't talked about enough when it comes to iconic, memorable Sega Genesis games. After all, this game is a ton of fun. I would argue that it was ahead of its time, and it was just overall a great experience. Of course, with it being a underrated Sega game, I do want to mention to please be sure to check out my video of underrated Sega games, because I do talk about Super Thunder Blade on there as well. Sega kicked things off strong by launching Super Thunder Blade on the Genesis. Now, the original PlayStation was the best-selling game console from the 5th generation of games and would allow Sony to kick off a brand new brand that would go off strong and would easily become a household name with the original PlayStation. It started off strong with Ridge Racer among its library of launch titles. Ridge Racer was an amazing arcade racer from back in the day, and it was overall a very iconic game. Now, of course, I am a huge fan of arcade racers and a big fan of the Ridge Racer series, so it does bring a smile to my face being able to talk about such an amazing franchise being started off on the original PlayStation, but not only being an amazing racer itself, but also an amazing arcade game. It was really nice to see this arcade racer be brought into homes finally with the original PlayStation, and while this game didn't quite have the arcade quality to it when the game launched out, the game was still a quality title and could still easily be enjoyed without much of a quality drop from arcade to console. Namco really did things right when they brought the original Ridge Racer over to the PlayStation and allowed for the PlayStation to start off strong with an amazing arcade racer. Now, with this game, I can easily argue that it is one of the best first-person shooters of all time, and that is Halo Combat Evolved. Back when the original Xbox came out in 2001, Microsoft played things right by allowing Halo Combat Evolved to become part of its library of launch titles. Halo Combat Evolved had an amazing story, which had an actual novelist write the story for the game. The game was easily an instant classic among fans. It was great for LAN parties, split screen, great story. Even if you were somebody who wasn't really paying attention to the story, you could appreciate its gameplay. And if you were somebody that liked a good story and solid gameplay, Halo Combat Evolved was really up your alley right there. Microsoft really did things right when Halo Combat Evolved was brought to the original Xbox. 4 years later, after the original Xbox would come out, Microsoft would bring the Xbox 360 to retail shelves. This console introduced a lot of great games on it and kicked things off with a very strong launch lineup with Need for Speed Most Wanted, Perfect Dark Zero, which I consider to be an underrated first-person shooter, along with other great titles on it as well. But I can easily say, out of all the games that were launched on the 360 at the time, I think that Call of Duty 2 is probably the top among the other launch titles. Call of Duty 2 helped propel Infinity Ward and Activision to help create the Modern Warfare games, which is easily an iconic series that many gamers can easily tell you. But with Call of Duty 2, it was a very solid World War II shooter. Although the story, in my opinion, wasn't bad, it wasn't great, but it did serve its purpose purpose and helped explain as to why you were fighting the Germans and all that good stuff. It was a very strong launch title for the Xbox 360, and I do think that it is a very memorable Call of Duty title, and I do think that it is a very memorable title among the Xbox 360 lineup of games, which of course I will say, when kicking off a console, I do think having a game such as Call of Duty 2 will help you move in the right direction. Now with this game, I want to take another look at the Sega Dreamcast's launch lineup with Power Stone. While Sonic Adventure, in my opinion, is easily the #1 when it comes to the best launch game for the Sega Dreamcast, I would say Power Stone is not too far behind with Sonic Adventure, with its very innovative gameplay, very fun gameplay, and overall great experience. With this game, it allowed you to move among the field and pick up different weapons and items and all that good stuff, and be able to allow you to hurl things and shoot things and slash your enemy all across the field. And you could also pick up gems, which allowed you to use some special attacks. The game was overall very fun, and it is very unfortunate that Power Stone isn't really a game or a franchise that you don't really hear too much about anymore in this day and age. But what I will say when it comes to Power Stone, Capcom did Sega a huge favor by bringing a top quality game such as Power Stone into the Dreamcast launch lineup of games. So as mentioned from before, Nintendo is a powerhouse of quality games and top-notch launch titles. So I hope nobody is surprised when I talk about this entry, and that is Luigi's Mansion. Luigi's Mansion introduced an interesting take for the GameCube when the game was centered around Luigi being the main protagonist instead of Mario, and it would be up to Luigi to save his brother in the game. With this game, it was very interesting of how you would move throughout the mansion and encounter these different ghosts and move throughout the mansion. The game was overall very fun, it was very creative, and it is easily a game that a lot of people will try to pick up still for the GameCube, for good reason too, because it is a very fun game and it offered a very interesting experience for the GameCube's launch. Alright, and that is going to conclude my list for some of the best launch titles to release for a console's launch. What do you guys think of the list? Any games that you agree with, disagree with? Any games you were hoping to see on the list that simply didn't make it? If I didn't talk about it, there's probably a very good chance I just haven't played it yet. So if you are thinking of a certain title in mind, feel free to comment in the comment section down below. Give this video a like if you did enjoy the video, helps boost it up into the YouTube algorithm so more viewers such as you can find videos just like this. And of course, please do consider subscribing. I make a lot of content talking about game collecting tips, and a lot of other game related subjects. So if that's something that you're interested in, please do consider subscribing. But if you're going to subscribe, don't forget to hit that bell notification button so that way you will be notified when I upload a video such like this. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll be seeing you guys next time.